Hello guys, viewers, welcome back to Biomoto channel. In the part 5 of our programming tutorial, we have already implemented the ENB migration, seeder, rollback, and refresh in our CodeIgniter 4 framework. Now in this video, we are going to create a token-based authentication API using JWT, JSON Web Token. Yeah, so let's get started. Now I have already opened our application folder. The first thing we do is we're going to run our application server. So let's type PHP Spark serve dashboard 3000. Yeah, you can run also your application on port 5000, 8080, or 8081. But for me, I would prefer to use 3000. So now, as you can see, we have already run our application on port on localhost 3000, and then the next thing we do is since we are going to create our token-based authentication API, we are going to create a route for our authentication API. Now click config folder and then find the routes.php and then break the line. At the line number 39, we're going to put our authentication API here. I'm going to create a group of routes because authentication API is a part of account module. We all know that account module has many APIs to integrate, like reset password, log out, and then sign out. Sign up. Then let's type here routes, and then the group function, and then the first argument is the name of the group, which is account, and then the second argument is static function, and then the argument for this function is routes, and then curly bracket, double curly bracket, and then end tag. Inside of this group, we're going to put the API authentication API. Routes, and then the post method, because we're going to use post method in authentication API. And then the first parameter is the API name, authentication. And then the second parameter is the name of the controller that we're going to call authentication. And then double colon, and then the function name of that we are going to hit inside the authentication controller index. So we haven't created authentication controller yet, but right after these routes, we are going to create the authentication controller. Let's click this icon because we are going to open another terminal. Yeah, and then let's create our authentication controller. Let's type PHP Spark make colon controller, and then the name of the controller, authentication. As you can see, file created. Let's take it on controllers folder. And then this is the authentication controller that we have just created. Now let's test our authentication API. For the meantime, we are going to create a response data. So type return $ this response. Then the argument is array, and then key value pairs data. The value is, let's say, test. And then on top of authentication class, use CodeIgniter, CodeIgniter \API \response rate. And then inside of authentication class, let's use the response rate. Response rate is for our response data to send in client side or front end side. So let's click the Thunder client and then new request, and then change this URL into a double square bracket, double colon one, and then outside the square bracket, let's put colon again, and then the port of our application server 3000, and then the group name is account, and then the API name is authentication. And then let's change the method get into put post, I mean post, because as you can see here in our routes, we use post in our authentication API. And then let's check if this is working. Boom, it's working. The data is test. The key value pair is data and the value is test, as we have set here, data and test. Now that our authentication API is working, it is time to create a model for our authentication API. So let's type here PHP Spark make colon model, and then the name of the model. Since our user data is stored in users table in our database, let's name it users. So file created. Let's check it in model folder. As you can see, the users has just created. The table name is users. So let's create a catcher for our post data. We're going to catch the email and password value, so that we will validate that if the email and password is correct from in the database. So let's make a variable email equal to dollar sign this request, and then get var, and then the key name or the field name email, and then end tag, and then the second variable is password equal to dollar sign this request, then get var, and then key password, then end tag. Now to be able to see the value of email and the password that we are going to catch, let's change this data into email, and then the value is email, and then the second key is password, and then the value is password as well. The data from the front end payload will catch here in this function, and then we will return the email and the password in the front end side as well. So let's check it here in our Thunder Client API request. So now, as you can see, we have data test response data. We are going to put our payload here, the data that we are going to catch in the backend side. So let's create email. The key is email, and then the value is view-moto at gmail.com. And then the second key is a password, and then the value is 12345 6. Now let's hit the send button. If we'll return this value here in our response. So let's check it. Send. As you can see, the data that we have put here in our payload is the same as we have get here in response data. And now we are going to validate the email if the email is existing in our database. If the email is not existing, we are going to respond a 401 status code. And then uh, that means that 401 is unauthenticated. So let's create a data variable, dollar sign data equal to dollar sign this as object function, as object because we are going to get the user data as an object, not an array. So where close, then the first argument is the key or field name, email, and then the value. The second argument is value of the email. And then uh, next function is the first. And then we're going to create a condition here. If not data, return 401, which is unauthenticated. So um, dollar sign this fail unauthorized authorized. And then the argument here is the message that we're going to prompt in front end side. So let's say email or password is invalid. So views don't for security reason we don't tell to the user that the email is invalid. We're going to tell them that email or password is invalid so that they will not get a hint to crack the user's information. Now, if the email is existing in our database, this query will return user's data, and then it will save here in this data variable. Now we are going to make a condition here if to verify the password, if the password from the client side payload and then the password from the user's data from the database is equal. Now let's make a condition. If not, password that there underscore verify, and then double parentheses, and then we gonna have a two arguments here. The first one is the password from the client side payload, and then the password from came from the database, and then data password. Now, if this condition is true, we're going to response or return unauthorized 401 status code, because the password from the payload and password from the user data is not equal. So return, let's copy this line of code. Then yeah. Um, we're going to return the unauthorized 401 and then the email or password message. So if this statement did not met, it means that your email is correct or existing in the database, and then the password from the client payload and then the password from the database is equal. Now let's create a JWT token. And now we are going to install the JWT token plugin. So let's go to our terminal, type composer, and require Firebase /php hyphen JWT, and then press enter. And then our JWT plugin is installing. Now it's already installed. Let's create our variable for our JWT. Now let's make a variable data. Now let's create a payload variable, dollar sign payload, and then equal to array. And then inside the array, we're gonna have a key value pair. The first one is ISS, and then the value is the ID of user's information, data, and then ID. And then the second key is AUD, and then the value is email from users information as well, data, email. And then the next one is sub, and then the value of this sub is let's say JWT token. The next one is IAT, the time when JWT token issued at. So let's make a variable here, dollar sign IAT, and then we're gonna get the current timestamp. So time function, and then let's put here IAT, and then the next key will be exp expired at, and then uh, I mean IAT plus 3,600. This expiration, I think, is 1 hour. Yeah, 1 hour. So this is the payload of our JWT token. So let's put an end tag here, and then we're going to get the secret key from env file. So let's put a variable here, secret key equal to get env, and then the variable name of our secret key in env file. So JWT secret, and then end tag semicolon, and then we're gonna create JWT secret key in our .env. So here, let's say we're going to put the JWT secret key here. So let's type JWT underscore secret, and then the value, let's say subscribe view motto. Yeah. Our secret key will be subscribe view motto. And then let's go back to authentication controller, and then we're going to save the JWT token in the variable. So let's make JWT equal to JWT colon double colon, and then encode. This function will hash the payload secret key, and then the HS256, the type of hashing. So let's put in the first parameter payload, and then the second parameter is the secret key, and then the third parameter is type of our hashing HS256, and then end tag. Now we need to import or use the JWT plugin here. So let's use Firebase backslash JWT backslash JWT. So this is our JWT plugin. Now let's put an end tag. So now the next thing we do is we're going to get the user rule. But in order to do that, we are going to make the user model first. Now type here in our terminal php spark make colon model, and then the rules model. You can see the file created. So uh, as you can see, this rules .php is our rules model. So let's go back to authentication controller, and then let's create, or let's make a variable here, $rule equal to $rules, and then as object function, and then where close, then id, the rule id, and then the rule came from the user's data or user's information. Let's say $data, and then rule id. This is actually our foreign key from the user's table. And I think we missed some codes here. Remove let's replace it into user, and then put here dollar sign user and then new users. And then let's use the user model here. So up backslash model backslash users. And then one more thing, we're gonna use also the rules that we have just created. Use up backslash model backslash rules. And then we're gonna put here as well the rules. Dollar sign rules equal to new rules. Then semicolon. Kabuse, I forgot to put the first function here. And then we're going to finalize our response. So let's remove this key value pair. And then let's put another key value pair here. Data. And then the value is array. And then inside array, we're gonna put also another key value pair. Let's put here ID. And then the value is data ID. And then the second one is first name, and then the value is data first name. And then the third one is middle name. And then the value is data middle name. And then the fourth one is a email. And then the value is data email. And then the other one is rule. This is the rule of our user. So we're gonna put another value array here, and then key value pair inside of the array. So ID equal to um, um, rule. Yeah, the variable of our rules is rules. So let's put here rules and then the ID. And then the second one is name, and then the value is rules name. And then the last one is the token. Token. And the value is the JWT. Yeah. JWT because we have encoded our payload secret key in HS256 hash code. The return of this function will be the JWT token. So here is our response in the client side. So let's save it and then we're gonna test it if working. Let's click the send. So we have an error. So we're going to double check our codes in authentication controller. So as yeah, I forgot to put S here in the model because the folder is not model, it's models. So let's save it and then request it again. Yeah, it's working now. But the problem is the email is not existing in our database. That's why we get an status 401. And then email or password is invalid. As you can see here in our authentication controller, this condition is true. That's why it returns 401 status code. Now let's change the email address into existing one. So let's remove the S and then send it again. We have 500 internal server error. Let's check our authentication controller. Let's check the codes one by one. If there is error, yeah, this icon they should be in code. Then yes, this rules is our model. So we are going to change the rules into rule. Yeah, rule. Now save and then request it again. Boom. As you can see, we have 200 status code, and then the server response is the user data. We have the ID, username, middle name, email, rule, and then the token, the JWT token. So let's change this middle name into last name. Let's go back to authentication controller, and then middle name, change it to last name. Last name. And save, request again. Yeah, we have first name and last name. Finally, the token-based authentication API is up and running. It's all working. Thank you for watching the views. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel so that you will be notified for the next videos that we are going to upload.